If you or a family member have been hurt because of the careless actions of another person, call Walker Texas Lawyer. They'll work to get you the financial compensation and justice you deserve. They have 40 years of experience, and you don't pay unless you win. Call 713-881-9653 today for a consultation or go to walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking to talk, you me funny lad.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
So great to talk to you both. Congratulations on a great movie.
Thank you.
I guess I want to start with this because I'm such a massive pro wrestling fan. So when I found out this movie was coming, I was very excited about it. But I wanted to ask the two of you, did y'all have any preconceived notions of pro wrestling and what it was and what it represented? And did those ideas change after going through this process of the movie? Maura, we can start with you.
I did have preconceived notions because I thought it was all fake. I didn't watch wrestling. I would watch Hulk Hogan with my little brother. It's not something that I experienced, but I did think it was all fake. And then doing the movie, I realized, there's a tremendous amount of training they have to go through and a tremendous amount of athleticism. I didn't know how physically demanding it was. I thought it was just a show, and there's a lot more to it than that, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna second Maura's answer too. I was a combat sports fan, and but my interest previously had been more boxing and MMA, and not that I wasn't a wrestling fan, but I had trained in the other sports and I hadn't trained as a wrestler. So the first thing I did when I got the part was just go to wrestling school. And what I discovered almost immediately was how difficult it is, the tremendous athleticism that's required, the technique that's required, the endurance that's required. And I came away with a profound respect and admiration, for the guys who do this professionally, because it's not easy. You got to have all those things that I just described, and then on top of that, you got to have the personality and the charisma and the imagination to be able to create a character, that's going to connect, with the wrestling fans. So, because if you don't have any of those qualities, if you're missing even one of them, you're not going to become a star in the world of professional wrestling. And so it was a real, education for me in that respect. And, to be very honest, it kind of made me a wrestling fan for life.
Okay, well, hey, we can always use more of them. We can always use more wrestling fans. But more, look, I'm from Texas, the Von Erichs. That story is you're born and bred with it here, especially if you're a wrestling fan. But as much as I knew about the Von Erichs, I didn't know a lot about Doris. I didn't know a lot about her at all. And watching the movie, afterward, I felt like I wanted to see a whole story just about her and her life and her character. What is your idea of who she was as a person? Kind of what's your assessment of her?
I mean, there's not a lot of, I tried to do the research too, but she's just not in these documentaries. She was a little bit more a part of the show in real life than she was depicted in the movie, but it wasn't a whole lot to go on, except for her, everybody just talked about her faith. And that's, I guess, the thing that I leaned on, which was, how does this woman, this very stoic, how how does she handle all of this pain and all of this loss? And it was her faith. So that's, primarily what everybody says about her was her love of God and the church.
And then Holt, when you think about Fritz von Erich, I mean, again, I'm aware of him as a character, and knowing what I've seen in this movie and documentaries before, you have a sense of who he might be. But in your opinion, do you feel like Fritz von Erich loved being a father, or do you feel like Fritz loved having sons in order to have them reach a goal that perhaps he couldn't?
Yeah, I mean, this is, of course, the eternal question, about this particular guy. You'll hear people, say very negative things about Fritz, that he was controlling, even that he exploited family tragedies for his own commercial gain. That he pushed his sons so hard that, that he's in some way, responsible, do you know what I mean, for the tragedies, for the drug abuse. I don't buy that argument. There was rampant drug abuse, in professional wrestling and in other businesses too in the 1980s. You know what I mean? There was a cocaine epidemic. That you can't blame that on Fritz von Erich. Fritz was born in the 20s. Fritz never did cocaine in his life. Fritz wanted his sons to lift weights. He wanted them to be in shape because he knew that strength and that athleticism was something that was going to be required if they were going to be stars in the sport. But I think that he loved his sons and he loved his wife and he wanted his family to be as successful as it could possibly be. I think he's a legend. I think he's one of the most interesting characters in the history of professional wrestling. I think he created a dynasty in Texas, and the real tragedy, look, there was a lot of tragedy, but part of it is that dynasty was so short-lived. That moment in time in the 1980s when David and Kevin and Kerry were rock stars, who could fill Texas Stadium. It was a brief moment, and it was over almost before it began, and so it's very sad. But there was a lot of, you're a wrestling fan, so you'll understand what I say when I say there was a lot of tragedy that befell wrestlers in world-class championship wrestling. Gino Hernandez died, yeah. Right? He had a terrible drug problem. Chris Adams died. You know what I mean? A very violent death. Bruiser Brody, was stabbed to death in San Juan by Jose Gonzalez. Are you going to blame all that on Fritz von Erich? I mean, at what point are we going to stop trying to suggest that everything that was wrong with professional wrestling in the 1980s was Fritz's fault? I just don't buy it. I mean, yeah, yes, he was controlling, and yes, he motivated his sons, to try, to become champions. And maybe he did push too hard sometimes. But, I'd rather have a father like that than a father who didn't care.
Well, a profound answer and a profound movie. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for sharing this story with everybody. We're both.
I have one thing to add, if I can. Yes. I got a subscription to ESPN Plus so I could watch those documentaries. So.
Yeah. So we'll be
there
seeing.
You go.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank y'all so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Hurry up, tape running out.